Hey everyone, it's Drew Murray from D20 Advice, and today is another My 30-Day World thing. Absolute Tabletop doing the Kickstarter thing. I haven't checked in on that in a little while, so I have no idea how over and above backed they are. But presumably they're doing loads of stretch goals and stuff with that now. Anyway, World of the Taihun, My 30-Day World. Today is day 24, I believe. I'm losing track of these things. However, today is what is the tech level and how integrated is magic into the world, and presumably the technology. This is not Ebron. So while there will be cracky fingers, while there will be occasional cities and things, the scope for that being somewhere in the world of the Taihun, it's not the standard. I find that with a lot of campaign settings and things, it seems that people are focusing on a single kingdom, and that the majority of people are united, like Neverwinter. The Forgotten Realms campaign setting, like that. There's a culture that kind of runs through all the different groups, and that there isn't really a delineated national boundary. So it's difficult to put my campaign world in the same sort of genre vein as those. I mean, strictly speaking, it is. It's still fantasy. But I feel like that there's a potential separation that you could make there. There's another genre that you could make of homogenous fantasy, and the culture and tech level in a world, and a more separated, stepped technology and culture system in a fantasy story. And I think that's where I find difficulty in communicating, is that we don't have that language yet. However, long story short, low magic and technologies around about a mid-medieval, very early Renaissance, late medieval in some areas. Most of the time, people are still getting over the new invention of the scythe. No, probably not. But yeah, everyone is still in basic draft animals and that sort of thing. Mills being powered by the wind and draft animals. No hydroelectrics, no electrics, for the most part. Magic will be integrated in some part, in that science is integrated in some part. And science and magic in the world of the Taihun are confused. They're not entirely interchangeable. All magic is not science. I'm not saying that the Feyweave is secretly nanobots or anything like that. But what I am saying is that the majority of wizard magic, for the first 5 levels at least, is science that they think is magic, because they don't have the vocabulary, the scientific understanding, nor even the scientific mindset to understand it as anything other than magic. So the same will be with certain levels of technology. You'll have some technology that people view as magic, but again, we're going very low key here. In the majority of cities and things that I've run games in, there's no magic, there's no special technology, but there's always like tales from bards coming left and right of far off places with magical things going on, and you'll get there, and it's just that it's an especially complicated aqueduct system or something that's just been exaggerated over the years. So there's not a lot to really report on. I'm not doing some fantasy sci-fi thing. I say that. Okay, I'm not. This isn't like sci-fi with fantasy dressing over the top. That being said, there is a crashed spaceship in the world of the Taihun, and that's where some mind flayers are. That's part of like where they're getting their information from is they've got like an advanced scout team, and a wand of magic missile is a laser gun. um, so there's minor things here and there, where the lines get a little blurred. But if you wanted to run just pure fantasy in a pure medieval environment, the south of the continent of Enon, that is your bread and butter. It's thousands and thousands of square miles of rolling grassland and mountains and forests. You've got elves, dwarves, humans, halflings, gnomes, goblins, kobolds, and the occasional orc, lots of hobgoblins. And you've got your fantasy standard setting there. You've got secret dragons wandering about the place, pretending to be elven princes and whatnot. So you've got your intrigue, you've got your conflict, you've got your standard fantasy thing there. You move further north, you've got your more kind of Game of Thronesy monster on monster Godfather intrigue. But anywhere in the middle, anywhere far to the west and east, that's where I haven't mapped things out. I haven't cartographed. I apologize. I haven't cartographed absolutely everything, and I encourage players every single game that I run that at the beginning of the session we do what's called Bard's Tales, and people can just say a story. It can be about their character, or it can just be a story. It's to get people into the right sort of frame of mind for playing D&D, as well as for expanding upon your character's backstory without forcing everyone to sit down for 20 minutes at the beginning of a game. So you get a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, every single game to tell us a bit about your character's past. And it can be absolutely anything. There are no limits, because the concept is this is your character relaying this to the rest of the party around a campfire. So you could tell a story of a far-off city where magic carpets are the main source of transit, and everyone casts spells all the time, and it's led by a great archmage. And I've not planned for that. If it's cool and it fits in with the game, we may journey to that place. If it finds itself incongruent with the kind of gameplay that everyone else is playing, either I will find absolute evidence that it does not exist and present it to the characters, like they make a journey there and it's not there, and so the character was just exaggerating around a campfire. That's then part of that character. But my preference is to leave it ambiguous, so it could be out there, because I don't really want to limit a lot of things. Like everything kind of needs to be along the same sort of genre guidelines. So nothing too wacky, but I'm struggling to conceive of anything that, with the right tone handling, wouldn't fit somewhere in the world of the Taihun. Exceptions are things that automatically contradict what's already there. So pantheons and whatnot, but world-spanning empires as well, not a thing. There is no world-spanning empire. Humans all being one thing, and elves all being one thing, and dwarves all being one thing, again contradicts what's already there. But with the guidelines already set up in the world of Taihun, there isn't really any limits beyond that. And so you could have a kingdom far off in the east that is superiorly technologically advanced, that they have near steam power. They're not generating electricity, they're not storing it. But you may have what do they call them? The Van de Graaff generators and things. It's not like just something like that. So nothing that can store electricity, nothing that can use stored electricity, but just things that produce cool minor magical effects and gimmicks and things. It's like a shocking grasp cantrip thing, but bzz, you just have things like that around the place, just to give you a bit of a tonal twist to things. If you wanted to run an adventure in something like that, go nuts. That is something that can fit within the world of the Taihun, because it's this isolated thing off to the side. Again, if you want to have like some Ice Age adventure thing, but set it in modern Taihun, then just have a southern island somewhere where everyone's got super primitive technology. Technology isn't something that's written about, especially in sort of medieval ages. I suppose that's something to point out. Books are a rare thing in the world of the Taihun. You do not get libraries full of things accounting for everyday life. There is no field of sociology in the world of the Taihun, at least not one that's broadly accepted. So to find a book on something, you'd really need to look. People would learn their trades and crafts directly from people. There would be very little written on the subject. And so if you had just a single generation of people growing up on an island without access to the proper tools and everything, they'll have lost that knowledge. I mean, by single generation, I mean, have a few people lost, they have a single generation of children, and those people grow up and the elders are gone. You've lost all that knowledge. So there's a great scope for variety in the world of the Taihun, is what I'm drilling down to and trying to impress upon anyone watching. And the magic isn't integral worldwide. I do feel like in a lot of these videos, I'm basically saying there's a lot to the world of the Taihun. And I think broadly that's because a lot of it is left undefined, and deliberately so. I use the world of the Taihun as like this loose template. I always visit the same places, but I like the fact that the distant regions are this hazy quantum miasma. They're like quantum waveform functions, so they don't exist until you canonize them with a GM description. They are just this unknown miasma. They are simultaneously everything and nothing until it's described, and that is every D&D session. Every D&D session is anything and everything can exist until it's described, and then it collapses. The waveform collapses into the single event, the single thing. Which is something that always bothers me about people that are like, oh, well, I put a trap to the left and the party went to the right, so they missed my trap. It's like, no, that trap doesn't exist anyway. You planned for it to be on the left because you assumed they would go left. So abstract that one level. You put the trap in the direction that you assumed they would go. Abstract that to another level. You wanted the players to fall into a trap when they went in, no matter which way it was. But you just thought in your head it would be left, so let's put it left to put it somewhere. Now take that abstraction and then just apply that. So they turn left, they fall into a trap. They turn right, they fall into a trap. If they then double back, they don't meet the same trap again, unless you want that to happen. That you can have one route is trapped and the other route is not. And if you really want the players to fall into a trap, you just have them fall into the trap and then just swap which side is trapped and not trapped. That way you get to use the content that you wanted to use, and the stuff that you had prepared and the stuff that you thought would be entertaining for the players to encounter. And they're not having to play a strange sort of riddle guessing game with the map that they haven't been shown. So yes, communication skills, I think it needs to be like an essential thing in DM Dungeon Master's Guides, which it probably is. It's been a while since I've read my Dungeon Master's Guide. Anyway, going way off topic. Technology, standard late medieval, early Renaissance. Magic's not a huge deal. It's not integrated into technology, apart from when it is, which is not often and not in the main areas that I tend to deal with when I'm running games in the world of the Taihun. But it's possible. So, and crashed spaceships as well, with mind flayers that escaped in when I see them. Bye.